Welcome to another edition of Black Star Still Rising. My name is Othel Owen, and I am your host. And today we have a special guest in our studio. But before I get there, the Black Star Project, founded by Philip Jackson in 1996, is an educational nonprofit organization located in the Bronzeville neighborhood in Chicago. Black Star is located at 3509 South King Drive, and the number is 312-662-3106. Today we have special guests in our studio, the Reverend Dr. Joel Mitchell. He is the Executive Director of EMAS. Reverend Dr. Joel Mitchell is an ordained and licensed minister who has worked in social service for over 25 years. During his time, he worked with the youth in care, at-risk teens, and individuals impacted by mental illness and HIV/AIDS. As Deputy Commissioner with the Chicago Department of Family and Support Services, Human Services and Workforce Service Division, he was responsible for the City of Chicago's 6 communities service centers, oversight which offered a wide range of services to low-income communities. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
It's been a minute for you trying to get here, so we appreciate you squeezing out some time for us today.
No, my pleasure.
It's an important conversation that we're having today. The Reverend Dr. Joel Mitchell is the Executive Director of EMAS. Tell us about EMAS.
Emmaus.
Isn't that what I said? He just didn't hear me. Emmaus.
Emmaus, thank you so much again, my brother. I truly appreciate the opportunity to be here and to be able to share about this very important topic.
Yes.
Yeah, so Emmaus is actually an organization that works with male survivors of human trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. Emmaus has literally been around for about 30 years. It was founded by a gentleman by the name of John Green up on the campus of Wheaton College, but he started off doing outreach to people in the community in the early 90s. And during that time, we were at the height of the HIV and AIDS epidemic. And as they were doing outreach, they would come across men who were out in the community, and it just appeared, or they knew that they were involved in perhaps prostitution or some other things, and that led them to have a conversation.
Yes.
And when they had the conversation with these men, they learned very early on that they were actually survivors of male trafficking, of sex trafficking. And so at that point, that's when we started this journey of walking with men.
And Emmaus means journey, is that correct?
Yes, Emmaus means journey. Not only are we a not-for-profit organization, we are a faith-based organization. And the name Emmaus comes from the biblical text, and it's one of the resurrection stories when Jesus was resurrected after the third day. In the black church, on the third day.
On the third day, he rises again.
So it was one of those resurrection stories when he was walking on the road to Emmaus with 2 gentlemen.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Cleophas and the unnamed disciple, and as they walked together, he shared with them, and he got into community with them.
Well, okay, I want to kind of move into this because when I first learned of you and your organization, and we're talking about human sex trafficking, I never thought about men. I've always associated with women, but men too.
Men too.
So tell us about that. Tell us about that.
No, thank you. And to be honest, I've been working with this organization for 3 years. And when I first heard about this organization, now you did read some of my bio. I am a Chicagoan through and through. I have been born and raised in Chicago. My entire adult career has been in the area of social services and working with almost every population known to humankind. I had never come across an organization that worked with male survivors of sex trafficking. And it's sad because when you think of sex trafficking, of course, the first thing we think about is women.
Yes.
And if I may be frank and honest, the first thing a lot of us think about is white women
Yes.
and that movie Taken with Liam Neeson.
Yes.
And that's the image that we have in our head as it relates to human trafficking and sex trafficking. But that is a far, far cry from the truth.
That's right. So many of our black women are missing, and they left home, they ran away. No, they're not. They've been taken.
They've been
taken, stolen from their families, stolen from us.
Yeah. No, and when you think about how it impacts us, because this is happening right here in Chicago and the heart of our south and west sides of the city. But when it happens to men, one of the myths is that how could this happen to men? Men have agency, men have power, men have authority. But as we did the research and as we started working with men, we learned that their earliest encounter was at 12 and 13 years of age.
So taken as children.
As children, and not necessarily taken, but exploited right in their neighborhoods. Because what happens is, for the majority of the men and young men who are impacted, they started off as either in broken homes, DCFS wards of the state, homeless or at risk of
Vulnerable population, those young at risk.
Every checkbox, vulnerable, poverty, education, all of the socioeconomic woes that we see.
And they're preyed upon.
They're preyed upon. Because the predator does not care who the prey is. If that's a vulnerable person,
yes,
they will take advantage. And so how it generally happens is when they encounter these young boys who are in these very vulnerable situations, it happens so quickly. Like, oh, you're homeless? Well, you don't have to be homeless. Come and stay with me. You know, and so these are friends, these are coaches, these are people in the community, and they are actually wolves in sheep's clothing because they'll give them an opportunity to come and stay, but then they begin to groom them. And so now after they've stayed for a couple of days, now it's the caveat, whereas you can stay, but now I'm going to need you to do this for me. Or you can stay, but guess what? I have to go to work. But the same thing that you do for me, you're going to have to do it to my friend John who's coming over. Or it's the exploitation comes in, whereas, you know those pictures that you took? If you don't do this, now I'm going to show these pictures to your parents, to your friends, to your loved ones. And they become trapped in this whole just sphere of exploitation and abuse. And when they happens so young, they become groomed in this, and it's really about survival. It's about survival.
You know, you paint this story, and I'm reminded of some of the young fellas that I ran across in my community, in my neighborhood, and not knowing, not thinking about this is what's going on. You know, so what can we do, black men in our community, to protect or to guide or to offset some of this stuff? I mean, we call the police, but it starts before that. What can we do?
I think the first thing we can do is what we're doing right here today, and that is bringing awareness. Awareness is key, because once we become aware, then when we see people that are doing things on the street or in community, we won't be so quick to just judge or point a finger, but we may just take a pause and say, well, why is he doing this? Why is this taking place? Let's have a conversation. I mean, when you and I first met, it started with a conversation.
With the conversation.
And so it's by bringing awareness. And then once we know that these things are happening to young black and brown boys of color, and we see that, yes, these are the groups of young people who are impacted by poverty, impacted by homelessness, impacted by all of the social ills, then we can begin to engage them and try to get a better understanding of what they may be going through, and then offer resources. And that's what we try to do. We are providers who try to provide our best to provide trauma-informed care. Because when you see people who are acting out and you have awareness, now you may take a moment to pause and try to understand where they're coming from before you try to actually diagnose them or just discard them.
So now, let me correct me if I'm wrong. Are you saying that we have some folks right now who, you know, go to school, go home, and that are caught up into this? And they don't tell anybody for any particular reason?
Well, yes, because one of the reasons why it is so hard, particularly for men and particularly for boys, is shame. Because again, right now we live in a society that is full of, right now, every place you turn, it's about being the alpha male.
Yes.
Every place you turn, it's about toxic masculinity.
Say that word again. There's a lot of that toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity.
Yes.
And so when you see these young men who are being exploited, it's so hard for them to tell their story. Because first, who's going to listen? Who's going to believe them? And who's not going to judge them? Because one of the things is, and it's not that we have any issues serving all people, but one of the biggest myths or misnomers is that men who are impacted are either gay or bisexual or in that community. But so many of our boys, they're being preyed upon, and they are, many of them would even represent as being heterosexual. But again, it's about abuse, it's about survival, and it's about them wanting to live lives that are free and healthy and just free from abuse. And so to your point, yes, people are living every day. They're trying their best to go to school, go to work, and live and survive, but they're doing it, all of this behavior is taking place because, again, exploitation means if you tell, then we're going to tell others about your situation.
And if you catch them right, or catch anybody right, lonely, homeless, broken, depressed, and you offer a warm hand. You know, in one of Tupac's songs, he says, they showed a young brother love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you don't have love,
yeah,
you're missing love. You're looking for love in all the wrong places.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody gives you a warm hand,
yeah,
offers you a good meal, say, come with me, and you're caught.
Yeah.
That just blows me away because I know how true it is. And as we said, awareness. And the reason why you're here today is to bring more awareness to this situation. If you're just tuning in, you're tuning in to Black Star, Still Rising. And today we have our special guest in our studios, the Reverend Dr. Joel Mitchell, Executive Director of
Emmaus.
Emmaus. And how can people reach you?
So right now, we try to make it so easy for people to connect with us. You can reach us on our website or all of our social media channels at streets.org. Streets, STREETS.org. We made it so simple for you to connect us. And if you go to our website, you'll find more information about the programs that we offer, how you can connect with us, and even how you may be able to support this all-important ministry.
Well, I mean, so what kind of outreach are you able to do? What kind of links do you have in the community? Because, I mean, if I didn't know about you, and I kind of know a lot, how would somebody else know about you?
So that has been, I've been now the executive director since July. Okay. And that has been my number one goal, to get out in the community, to start by coming on shows like this one, which is a vehicle into our city. But the other thing that we do is we have a two-pronged approach. We try to connect with churches, because again, our churches and our pastors, they are in many instances still the backbone of our community, where people can go.
Now, are they receptive to this? I mean, this is dirty, this is ugly. It's not a topic that we want to have at the dinner table.
You are absolutely right. And that is one of the biggest challenges. And I think you asked me before in one of our conversations, what is the biggest challenge?
What is the biggest challenge? I mean, we've got people out there that are looking for your services, can't find you. We've got people who need to talk about it but are so embarrassed. We've got families and members who have children, and they don't want to acknowledge this because it's the dirty truth.
Yeah. It's stigma. It's stigma. And it is not in the non-for-profit world we say the work that we do, and forgive the analogy, but the work that we do is not sexy. Meaning we're not
Yes.
working with the babies, we're
Yes.
not doing after school programs, we're not, feeding. We do offer, feeding at our drop-in center, which we'll talk about. But again, being able to have these hard conversations about the underbelly of society. That is what we call, oftentimes when my wife and I will say, we have to pull the cover off and we have to expose it.
And the mental health issue behind this, well, in our community, we've always had a stigma behind mental health.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about it. We want to sweep it under the carpet. So I can only imagine the various issues that grow out of this. And in order to be a productive citizen in our society, there's certain things that you have to do. And if you don't feel good about yourself, if you don't have the confidence, then you're not going to be a productive citizen. So what can we do to help the outreach, the awareness, and our viewing audience? What can you do to share this information and tell us some of the programs that are offered and some of the processes that folks go through?
So basically, right now, our flagship program is our drop-in center. And our drop-in center is located right in the West Loop, right in Fulton Market, and we moved there purposely. We moved there because prior to that, we were up on the north side in a residential community that was not very welcoming to
I would imagine
our survivors and the people that we work with, and it was very challenging to get to. And so now, by moving into the West Loop, we are right there at the corner of Morgan and Washington. You have access to the blue line, to the green line. There are multiple bus stops in and around that. So just accessibility was the one thing why we moved to this location. Secondly, in terms of the services that we provide at our drop-in center, we want to welcome you in. So you don't have to do anything but come in. When you come into our center, we're not trying to get a million pieces of identification. We're not trying to get all of your story. We want to create a safe space, a safe environment. So at our drop-in center, you can come in, you can do your laundry. Because many of these young people...
Drop-in center is literally that. You can come in, wash your clothes, you get a meal, use the phone.
Get a meal, you can use the phone, you can take a shower. Because for our young people that are homeless, the last time that they were able to have clean clothes, or the last time they were able to take a shower, and so being able to come in and just sit down and take the world off, and just have a place of just respite where you can come in and be free to just be. And so you can grab a meal. Then you also have staff where we're providing trauma-informed care. We have counselors, we have case managers, so that we can get you connected to the services that you require or the services that you want.
What's trauma-informed care?
Trauma-informed care, it is slightly a buzzword that we're using now, but it's understanding that people have gone through trauma. And one of the ways that we talk about trauma is to understand the severity of an issue. My wife and I, we talk a lot when we're working with couples, or the thing is, there's a difference between having a concussion and having a traumatic brain injury.
Yes.
If you had a concussion, you say, oh, you'll be okay, just go sleep it off. But if you had a traumatic brain injury, then you know that this is going to take time. It's going to take healing. It's going to take more resources. And by being trauma-informed, that means we understand the impact that this abuse has had on the young person that is coming into our doors. We are receptive of that. We are knowledgeable of that. And we are providing the care to allow them to feel comfortable, to be themselves, and then to share their story.
Now that seems like quite a process. It doesn't happen in the first day. These are one of the typical services that you offer. So how would you engage someone? If I were to come into a drop-in center not knowing that I could get these services, or not knowing that I can come just wash my clothes, that's why I'm there, how would I be engaged?
Well, that's the thing about having trauma-informed staff. Because the staff are able to, we want to meet you where you are.
They're relatable, they understand.
And we're trying to build a rapport. We're not trying to force our agenda on you. We want you to come in because we believe in a strength-based approach where even though you've experienced trauma in your life, you are still the expert in your life. You know what you need. You know what you want. And so we are there to help cultivate that relationship and then serve as navigators to get you the support and the resources that you need.
What are the hours of the drop-in?
So right now we are open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And if you call us, we will definitely be there to welcome you. We're right now doing meals twice a week for lunch on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But again, we are available, we are accessible, and we are here to help.
How are you supported? How do you stay in business?
Well, thank you for asking that question. We are a not-for-profit organization, and we thrive and we are surviving from the support of donors, from the support of foundations, organizations, churches, but a lot of times the majority of our funding comes from people who care. And although they can't do the work, they're willing to help support the work that's being done.
Okay.
And so therefore we, again, if you go to our website, www.streets.org, you'll find out more information on how you can support this all-important work that we're doing.
Well, now, your survivors, folks who have gotten through this, who have survived, are they able to come back and support as volunteers, or do you seek volunteers from the community? How can we support?
Yes, well, we support, your first question, people who have graduated from our program.
That's a graduation.
And they are now our alumni. And so the alumni, they come back and they are able to volunteer, they provide groups, they will actually help with preparing meals, they help do street outreach. And so those are volunteer opportunities because once someone is snatched out of this environment, they are so willing and so grateful that they want to give back. They want to help the person coming behind them so that they won't necessarily have to go through everything that they've experienced in their own lives.
What's a typical story?
A typical story, and it just so happens, there was a young man, and he actually was in DCFS custody. And as he was in the juvenile court system, not too far from here, while he was out, he was there on a case, and a person approached him in the bathroom. And just understanding that he was there, he was in a broken environment. We don't know who the predator was, but he saw the young man being in this broken home, in this broken environment, and he was right there to offer him housing. He was right there to offer him, because again, these young men, they don't have a place to stay. They don't have all of the clothes. They don't have all of the fashionable things, and that's how they begin to groom them. And so he groomed them, and he invited him back to his home, where he then began to exploit this young brother. So the typical story is, again, 12, 13-year-old boys from broken homes, broken neighborhoods, and they're being taken advantage of.
Well, if you just tuned in, you're tuning in to Black Star Still Rising. And today we're talking about human trafficking with men surviving. We have Reverend Dr. Joel Mitchell, who is the Executive Director of Emmaus. And here are some resources and support. So I encourage you, if you have any family, any friends, or folks in your neighborhood who are experiencing this or going through this, there is help. There is an organization out here to support. And if you're looking for a worthwhile organization to volunteer, to donate money to, here is one right here. If you're in an organization, a fraternity or sorority, and you want to volunteer, reach out to Reverend Dr. Joel Mitchell, and he'll find a way for you to do just that. What's the phone number?
You can reach me at 773-220-9337.
One more time.
773-220-9337.
Once again, thank you for tuning in to Black Star Still Rising. My name is Othel Owen, and I'm your host. I want to give a shout out to our phenomenal, fantastic executive producer, Stephen L. Carter, a.k.a. better known as Black Butterfly. And we want to give a big thank you for Reverend Dr. Joel Mitchell for joining us, and continue to let your light shine so other follows. We thank you for the work that you have done. We thank you for the work that you are doing.
Yes.
And we praise God to keep you here to continue to do this work and reach out and train others to assist you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
Until next time, Black Star, still rising. You are that Black Star. Thank you for joining us.